Alright. So, we're doing whatever is after the Second Punic War but before the Third Punic War, which, from the title picture, is the Greeks. So we got the Second Macedonian War from 200 to 196 BC. So after Rome beat Carthage, Rome was pretty much the undisputed master of the Mediterranean. But the Greeks were still kind of just there, and the Romans and the Greeks really hadn't interacted too much, except for there was the First Macedonian War, which was during the Second Punic War, but that really didn't lead to much. It was more just a proxy war between Rome and Carthage. But you see Philip the Fifth pictured up above here, in an accurate depiction of him, and the Seleucid king Antiochus III. They kind of wanted to flex their power and take over some of the other Greek city-states, but some other Greeks in Pergamon and Rhodes kind of opposed this, and they were allied with Rome. So Philip, he was invading the he was wanting to expand in Greece, and then the Romans were like, "Hey, you better stop." And then he said no, and then the Romans were like, "All right, fine, we're not going to do anything." And then he started doing something else again, and then the Romans were like, "Hey, you better stop again." And with Publius Sulpicius Galba, he convinced the Senate to finally declare war on Macedon after Philip rejected the second ultimatum. The war in its early stages, no major moves were made, and they were kind of just checking each other out, but not too much happened. So in 198 BC, there was the consul Titus Quinticus Flamininus. Flamininus was a lover of Greek culture, and he really just wanted to frame this war as a promotion of freedom and self-determination for all the Greeks. So basically, it was like us going into the Middle East, and we're like, "Hey, we're going to liberate you, and it's going to be great." This is basically the Roman equivalent of surprise democracy. So he won a small victory in 198 at the Aeolus River, and he proposed a peace with Philip after outmaneuvering him with his armies, but Philip refused. This whole peace thing was kind of a sham, because Flamininus, he wanted to stay on as commander in Greece for all the glory, and what he could do is, if he dragged out peace negotiations with Philip, which he did, he could pose it one of two ways. If the Senate decided to keep him in command, he could just cancel the peace talks, but if he dragged him out and offered a more negotiable peace with Philip, then he could come back to Rome as a hero. So he was very much just manipulating this just to get all the glory. Rome got into an alliance with the Aetolian League, which is a group of city-states which is north of Athens in central Greece. At the Battle of Cynocephali, the Romans under Flamininus decisively defeat Philip with the help of the Aetolian League. Rome after this was the undisputed master of military strength, because the maniple system just outright destroyed the Macedonian phalanx system, because they were able to outflank them, and when a phalanx gets outflanked, it's pretty much over. There's nothing you can really do about it anymore. So after the Battle of Cynocephali, the Greeks were kind of free, but pretty much were just at the service of Rome, not the service of Greece. That's a typo there. The Greeks viewed the Romans as more of a slave master sort of thing than liberators, because they couldn't really do anything without Rome giving the okay. And the peace settlement with Macedon, the Aetolians were screwed over because Macedon was not completely destroyed. The Romans defeated the Spartans in a revolt at the Battle of Gythium in 195, because the Spartans were like, "Hey, we don't like Rome being Rome here," so then they chimped out, and then Rome just kind of crushed them, as seen in the picture, because up there they'll beat Sparta. Romans then sent envoys to Syria with the Seleucids. The main question with the Romans being the Spartans was, if Greece was free, why, if Sparta was trying to exercise their own power in their own region, why could Rome make this move against them? So it was a lot of city-states kind of turning against Rome there. And then the Romans sent envoys to Syria to discuss with the Seleucids the issue of Greece. And war between Rome and the Seleucids seemed inevitable. So when the Romans sent the envoys, they sent Scipio Africanus, And one of the people who was in the court of Antiochus III, the king of the Seleucids, was Hannibal, because Hannibal was just kind of going around with the Greeks doing stuff. So Scipio Africanus and Hannibal, they were at a dinner thing, and then Scipio, just to mess with Hannibal, posed the questions like, who do you think the greatest generals in history? So Hannibal was like, all right, so first is obviously Alexander the Great, because like everyone was like, hey, he's pretty cool. Then Hannibal said next was Pyrrhus of Epirus, who we discussed way back when with the Pyrrhic Wars, just because he said that Pyrrhus was able to inflict such massive victories against Rome. So that was kind of his whole thing there. And then the third one caught Scipio by surprise, because Hannibal was like, the third greatest general is obviously myself. And then Scipio was like, alright, so then what would happen if you did beat me at Zama? Because he's just trying to flex on him, saying you're not the greatest because I obviously beat you at Zama. And then he was like, well, if I beat you at Zama, that would be the greatest general of all time. So that's just kind of a interesting discussion they had there. But nothing really came out of these talks too much, except like war seemed obviously more inevitable. The Aetolian League wanted the Seleucids to go to war with Rome, and Pergamon wanted Rome to go to war with the Seleucids, because Pergamon is a city on the western coast of Anatolia, and they wanted to get the Seleucid land in Anatolia. Alright, so then we do get to the Roman-Seleucid War of 191 to 188 BC. So the Aetolians liberated some cities in eastern Greece, and they told the Seleucid king Antiochus that he could bring his armies there. But the cities didn't really want him there, so it was kind of a whole thing. And Antiochus was kind of upset with the Aetolians because they kind of lied to him about his armies being okay to go there. But Rome did see this as a call to arms. And 2 legions were mustered and sent to Greece. There was the Battle of Thermopylae in 191 BC. Achilles Glabrio defeats Antiochus, who was basically LARPing as Leonidas, and he got beat in the exact same way. Because as you can see from the chart of the LARP Battle of Thermopylae, basically the Romans were over here, Antiochus was here, and then the Romans just kind of came around and then crushed him from both sides. And this is the first time, this is important, this might be a common question, is Cato the Elder was the first, this was like the first sort of account of Cato the Elder, and he was a military tribune at the LARP Battle of Thermopylae. And if there's a common question, do not call it the LARP Battle of Thermopylae. I don't know if they would accept that. In 190 BC, the Romans sent Scipio Africanus and his brother Lucius Cornelius Scipio, who would later become Asiaticus, to fight in Asia Minor. This is a picture of a very accurate picture of Scipio Asiaticus and Scipio Africanus. And then Hannibal, Antiochus III, because he was a very not smart person, he basically told Hannibal, oh yeah, you're going to just command a fleet in Rhodes. And then the Scipiones kind of beat Hannibal on water too, and he was just kind of, Hannibal was sad about this, because Hannibal wanted to invade Italy and just go after Rome like straight away, but Antiochus told him no. And probably if Antiochus gave Hannibal more control, this war may have gone differently, just because Antiochus was just he wasn't good at this whole war thing, as seen by because he intentionally like fought at Thermopylae, and like he basically wanted to be like Leonidas, but like win instead. But that was just really dumb because his armies weren't as good. So then we have the Battle of Magnesia in 190. The Seleucids, I think, like almost outnumbered the Romans 2-1, but the Romans were just much more skilled and they won easily. They just kind of pushed up against them, and it was they outflanked them and everything, and it was a very easy victory. So in 188 BC, the Romans and Seleucids come to peace terms at Apamea. Rome at this point was the undisputed master over Greece. Pergamon got the Seleucid territories in Asia Minor. Antiochus III was assassinated because he had to rob a temple, because I guess he was just so humiliated, he didn't like have money or anything. So he robbed a temple in 187 and died. Philip V puts his son Demetrius to death. So this is going to set the stage for the Third Macedonian War. So basically, his son Perseus, Philip V's son Perseus, um, basically tried to make Demetrius out to be this like Romophile, like very much loved Rome and everything, which wasn't really true. But his father bought it, and his father ended up putting Demetrius to death on these false treason charges. Then Philip died in 179 to make Perseus king of Macedon, which again lays the groundwork for the Third Macedonian War.
If I remember correctly here, actually, the reason that he thought that his son was a Romophile was because I think in the Second Macedonian War, he had to give that son over to be raised in Rome.
Oh, okay.
So, as like a diplomatic thing. So I think
Ah,
that's the reason.
all right. Well, thank you for that. Yeah. Well, that would make sense. So here we got the Third Macedonian War in this map here. So the Macedonians are just angry again because Rome was being just too good and they couldn't keep up with Rome, obviously. So King Perseus was very anti-Rome and kept testing them with like little incursions here and there, and other attacks on like their allies. So Pergamon sent Rome warnings about Perseus, but really what led to Rome intervening was a revolt in Illyria, which they blamed on Perseus. And there was an assassination attempt on the king of Pergamon, which raised Roman concerns over the thing, and they convinced Rome to declare war. So they mobilized in 172. After putting the revolt down in Illyria, they finally declared war in 171 BC. The Romans are led by Publius Licinius Crassus, who's the ancestor of the triumvir Crassus. He lost to Perseus at the Battle of Callinicus, which got a lot of the Greek city-states to ally with Macedon, which was not a good call on their part because obviously we'll know that Rome wins this war. Roman legions raided and took spoils throughout the countryside, which really turned more Greek city-states against Rome just because they're going and looting everything. In 168, Aemilius Paulus was elected consul, and he really just kind of disciplined the legionaries. He didn't really do any of this looting anymore, like during this time. And he crushed Perseus at the Battle of Pydna. So the Macedonian army was destroyed. Perseus escaped to Samothrace, but was later captured by the Romans, and he was paraded in Paulus's triumph after defeating Macedonia. And he lived the rest of his life in a small village called Alba Fucens, and no one really cared about him anymore. The Macedonian monarchy was abolished, and this made it into 4 vassal republics, which, as you can probably tell from this trend, they're going to end up going to war with Rome one last time. But kind of in between, so there's a decent gap of time here. Nothing really happened for like 20 years. Like, it was just kind of peaceful. There was a revolt in Lusitania. Actually, what I should mention is the Romans, after this war, they wanted to teach Greece a lesson. So, Paulus let his men loose on Epirus, and they kind of just destroyed Epirus. Like, they just looted it, and they were like, alright, if you guys revolt again, we will destroy you all. And Macedonia really didn't get this lesson. I'm just looking at my notes here. I should mention one thing from the Second Macedonian, or the Seleucid War, is the Scipiones. Cato the Elder, after the war was over, kind of brought up charges against them for misappropriating war funds. And this kind of followed the Scipiones for the rest of their lives. And when Scipio Africanus died in 183 BC, he was buried in the countryside, and I believe on his tombstone it says something like along the lines of like, my country land like doesn't deserve me, or something like that, just because the thing Cato the Elder said about Scipio just kind of left a very bad taste in Scipio's mouth after this. So he wasn't really appreciative of Rome for the last few years of his life. So just between here, nothing much happens military-wise. There's really just the revolt in Lusitania, which the Romans put down quickly. So in the Fourth Macedonian War, Greece still had relative independence from Rome. But this really wouldn't last, obviously, because we all know Rome was going to eventually conquer Greece. Andriscus claimed to be the bastard son of Perseus, and he restored the Macedonian monarchy in 149 BC. At the second battle of Pinna, Quintus Caecilius Metellus, who would become Metellus Macedonicus, because as you can tell by the name Macedonicus, would defeat Andriscus, and he makes Macedonia into a Roman province, as seen in the map here. This will bring an end to our lesson here. This kind of overlaps with the Third Punic War, which we'll get to next week, but we can see that Rome has control over northern Greece here. The Aetolians are here. And then before the Second Punic War, next week there's a whole sort of revolt in Corinth, and Rome is basically just going to go sicko mode on Corinth and kind of burn it to the ground. So the Romans are really not messing around anymore. They're conquering very quickly. And then there's going to be even more wars with Greece. There's the Mithridatic Wars and a few others. So, yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, I had one question.
Yeah.
I think I might have my timeline all wrong, but there was this one alliance between Macedonians and other Greek city-states. Was that the alliance that was protecting themselves against the Romans, or am I thinking of some different time?
I think it probably would have been...
Oh, it was like the Corinthian League I'm thinking of. No, that's something else, right?
I think that's with Philip, Alexander's father, with the Corinthian League.
Oh, yeah,
right?
okay.
Am I right with that? That was before Rome.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they did have Greek city-state allies, especially during the Third Macedonian War, just because they kind of saw how Rome was acting, and a lot of Greek city-states didn't appreciate that. But the Corinthian League is with Alexander's father. Any other questions? I will take that as a no. Alright, thank you guys.